Describe what pain is.
What is pain?
Describing pain is really hard. Oh my gosh. I mean, I guess it depends on the person and what kind of pain you're persevering through or trying to.
Pain it can be described in lots of ways.
What instigated the opioid crisis is that there was a crisis of pain.
It makes me feel sad and exhausted.
There might be some mental anguish that'll come with it.
Back spasms to the point that I'm pretty much immobile.
Oh yeah, I've had 3 broken arms. I've had a broken finger, broken ribs.
Yeah, I have back pain, and so I take cyclobenzaprine to help it.
As Americans, we want a pill that takes it away.
Like just bending down or getting out of the bed is like the worst pain imaginable. It's like somebody's taking like an ice pick or something and just jabbing at your back.
So some of the estimates are that there's over 100 million Americans that suffer from chronic pain. That's more people experiencing pain than cardiovascular issues, hypertension.
And being able to see someone like my mom or a family member go through something painful like a migraine, and that's when it started to actually hit home that it is a real thing.
People who take opioids on a regular basis become tolerant, they need more over time.
It's oftentimes people will tell me they feel like that's all that they think they are, is their pain problem. They've lost contact with everything else, they're just pain.
So we used to live in Sparks with not much of a yard, and we wanted to be able to raise animals for our kids to have both as pets and as to raise for food. So we moved out to Yerington and bought a couple acres, and we have a lot of animals that we raise. It's a lot of work. We've lived here for 6 years. Let's see, I was a teacher by trade. I taught for about 7 years. And then our 3 kids got diagnosed with some disorders that were progressive, and we were told that they would just get worse. Their care required a lot of monitoring, a lot of attention. I had to end up staying home from teaching. I was an avid runner. I ran long distances. I did a marathon. Running was my stress outlet for taking care of chronically ill children. And it was what I did for myself. It was my escape. I tore my hip labrum. I had to have surgery to repair it. And 10 days after surgery, my left foot turned purple. It felt like my toes were being cut off 24/7. My doctor sent me to the ER. They thought maybe I had a blood clot. And then when everything came back that I didn't have a blood clot, they then sent me to Sierra Neurosurgery, and I saw Dr. Blake for the first time, and he diagnosed me with complex regional pain syndrome. I was told that, it would be questionable whether I would walk again, whether I would run again, whether I would get back to any of my activities. And living on a small farm with a husband who is incredibly busy and not home a lot, and taking care of 3 kids by myself was pretty overwhelming. I could not put my foot down on the ground. If you put a cotton ball on my foot, it felt like razor blades. It was constantly screaming in pain. With CRPS, unfortunately, there is not a cure. It is something that people can go into remission, but it's something that you kind of deal with forever, is what the research says. It is very much an invisible disease. People don't see it. My foot will change colors, but I have a sock or a shoe on. People don't see what it looks like. They can't tell what I feel like. And I constantly go back and forth in my head. about, do they understand how bad I feel? Should I say anything? Should I not? Should I just smile?
Pain can be very invisible. I actually had a number of people. One woman in particular said, "Mike, you're Dr. Lewandowski." She says, "I wish my pain was like a cut on my sleeve right here, and you could see the blood rushing down my arm." She said people would jump up to see how to help me and stop that because they could see it. But she says my pain's not that way, and so nobody recognizes it. Nobody appreciates what it is I'm going through.
There's estimates say 100 million people walking around with pain. It's the most common complaint that a patient goes to a doctor with, but pain can't be seen. You know, it's an experience. So it's a body experience and a mind experience.
Every patient or every person experiences pain differently. The definition of pain is that it has a sensory and emotional component. And it's the experiences of those two things, the emotional and the actual sensory information, that make up what we actually feel or understand. And everyone experiences things differently, just like we experience a sunset differently. That's how pain feels. You know, pain is very different and very complicated in that way.
Well, let's say that someone is walking on the sidewalk and they trip and fall. They break their leg. Okay, that's acute pain. There's tissue damage, it's immediate, it's severe, it stops the individual from moving. You go to the emergency room, they set the leg, they put it in a cast, and 5 months later, the pain continues. You may have now moved from an acute pain injury to a chronic pain, and the treatment needs to change.
Our passion is basically belonging to the Corvette Club, and we drive on different tours here, there, various different places every year. Belonging to the Corvette Club, we usually do one major drive in the year. Well, it's driving from Bowling Green, Kentucky, back home here is about 3,200 miles. And then you stop and think, I'm having a hard time sitting on a couch. What's it going to be like sitting on a car and getting shaken to bits, you know?
I deal with pain every day. I don't have a day where I don't have pain. It's just the degree of pain that I have to deal with. We were having a birthday party for my son. So I went over to pick the cover off the couch. And I was standing in front of the couch, but I had to reach up onto where the top of the couch was. So as I grabbed that blanket to pull, there was this sudden super pain in my lower back. And I couldn't move. And then from then on, that's what started my back pain. Just in the most innocent thing like that. Finally, it got worse and worse. And then that's when I actually hurt my back moving a desk at work. It's like just a pull and then there's sharp pain. That's when I had my first surgery. And from that point on, I was on some type of pain medication. Benefits of medication are to take away the pain. But even on some of the strongest doses, it doesn't take the pain away completely. For almost 5 years, I was very immobile. I mean, I couldn't do any housework. I couldn't, I could take care of myself, and that was about it. I'd get up and I go, well, I guess I'll just watch TV because I don't feel like doing anything else because I'm in pain.
Opioid medications have a place, and that place can be used in both acute and chronic pain. The problem is that they are extremely powerful medications, and in the acute situation, that's what you need. You need something that's very strong. In chronic pain, the effects of the medication are significant in the beginning and then they lose their effectiveness over time. Meanwhile, your body develops tolerance, which means that it takes more to get the same effect. And sometimes those patients develop dependence, meaning that if they were to stop the medication, they would go into withdrawal. If somebody wants to get off of opioids and they've been on them for a long time, I use the dam analogy. We describe their life as this dam that's been built, that holding the water, and when they were young it was a brand new dam and there weren't any issues with it, and over time they developed a painful condition that created cracks, and those cracks were then filled in with opioid medication. The opioids filled the dam and became the only option, and the patient then now wants to get off, and the only way to remove the bricks out of the dam is to do it slowly. To keep all the water in, you have to kind of pull each brick out and replace it with something else, and usually that is some alternative treatment, whether it's an injection, yoga, massage therapy, etc., etc. All of those pieces have to be replaced so that the dam is structurally sound and holding the water.
If she tried to get up out of the chair and went twisted just one wrong way, that would be it. We'd be going to the ER. And then they'd shoot her up full of pills and give her some heavy drugs to, get the pain to go away.
Being that way also leads to depression because you don't want to do anything. And you're sad because everybody else is doing all the things that they normally do, and you're stuck there doing nothing.
It typically would start with a physical trauma of some kind, an injury. It then moves into an expectation about that it should be taken away and fixed. When it doesn't heal and it continues, then people get scared and they can start to catastrophize about the pain. So the thinking starts to play a role in maintaining or perpetuating the problem. Then we start developing avoidance. Well, I don't want to do anything if I could re-injure myself. So their life starts to shrink. And that leads to anger and frustration that this whole thing happened in the beginning. And what does that do to the physical pain? It flares it up and makes it worse, and we go around and around and around.
It was hard. It was really, really hard. It's just, when you love somebody so damn much, you feel that pain. You don't want it to go away. You want it to stop so you can, do things together again. And, she just couldn't do it.
Because of the dependence, in the short run, when a patient stops the opioids, they get much worse because they're in withdrawal. The pain goes up because pain is one of the symptoms of withdrawal. The opiate receptors that are used to being filled are now screaming. So that has to be managed. In chronic pain, we have a condition that you assume is going to be with the person for life. That's what chronic means. It might come and go, it might get worse or better, but whatever source of the pain or whatever the pain is about is going to be with that patient for life. So we have to really look at what happens when people take opioids. What happens is temporarily, short term, they will work. Fast forward to 2 months, the patient comes back and they say, doc, it was working great, but after the pill, it seems to wear off, so I'm taking 3 instead of 2 a day. Is that okay? That's the point where the doctor ought to say, well, maybe that's not so okay. In a appropriate physician-patient relationship, to go in and say, doc, what do you think about me coming off these opioids? I would think most doctors would say, great idea, let's make a plan.
So I moved to Pahrump in basically 1990. It was December of '89. Came here, didn't plan on really staying in Pahrump, but here I am, raised my 2 sons here. And I like the small town feel. The sense of community is strong. You don't get that when you live in the big cities, Las Vegas. So these are the baseball fields where I spent a lot of time coaching youth over the years. Going through the memories are kicking in, So being a baseball coach, all those years of being out there doing it on the field, teaching the fundamentals of it, being able, physically do it. There's no way I could do it now. I would love to. So I had a work injury, moving a piece of equipment that probably shouldn't have been moving. They were supposed to send a crew out, and they sent one guy, but he was, 6'6" and 420 pounds. He was just a massive young guy. He was in his 20s. And he grabbed this piece of equipment and he's like, oh yeah, we can move it. And if I could take that moment back, I would, because that was a life changer for me. So. When I was to the point where the pain was so bad in my back that the muscle spasms were locking me up and my knees were giving out to where I couldn't even walk and function to do my job, I had to turn to something.
What was the treatment plan when it first happened?
Oh, opioids.
We have 6% of the world's population, and we use over 90% of the commercially available opioids. So America uses a lot of opioids, and so that's just the treatment modalities that the doctors use.
I went through the injections in the spine, in the back and doing all that. I went through the sets of those and got the relief from them, but that's not a fix. It's a Band-Aid. When you're in that much pain and you're trying to do simple things, putting your socks on, your fuse is this short because you're in that much pain already. And I just have to watch what I'm doing and think before I act and do something. I got a lot of life left, but I just know that I have to be careful when I'm doing it. I want to enjoy this stuff while it's happening, but be able to reflect on it and remember that stuff too. And if you're hooked on pain pills and altering your brain, you're not going to remember that stuff.
Pain is indicating that there's something deeper going on. It's our body's inflammatory response. Every medicine we take is risk versus benefit. If the benefit outweighs the risk, we take the medication.
They're effective. There's nothing that's more effective than them. They block pain nearly immediately. It's the science behind them. They work. It's just that when misused, they can cause people problems. There's always something else that you can explore. There's a different treatment that's a non-opioid treatment that you could try. There's a discussion that you can have with your practitioner. And if you're taking an opioid and everything's fine, that's great. If you're taking an opioid and you think that it should be a better quality of life for you, or there's some problem that you're having with it, there are resources out there that could help you with that.
Model that I was trained in, we use, is called a biopsychosocial model. And what that really says is that it encompasses not only the physiology, the physical part, the biological part, but there's also an equally important psychological, social, and emotional piece. So to really look at the whole person, we need to take a look at that perspective. And in fact, any injury occurs in a context, and there's a meaning to the person for that injury. Sometimes it's very traumatic. Sometimes there's anger and frustration and blame. All of those things play a role in how people ultimately experience their persistent pain.
And a lot of times when we assess patients in the pain management clinic, we're assessing what have they tried and failed. What have they tried and has been successful? And can we optimize what's been successful? Can we add things that they've never tried? Those are the things that we're trying to do, because it is a mixture of many things. There's not going to be one, silver bullet or a magic pill that's going to take it all away. And oftentimes it's not going to be curable.
Pain can affect all aspects of their life. So what I like to do is that I like to use examples of things. And so people who walk in here usually have this problem. And the problem is represented by this ping pong ball, and that ping pong ball represents pain. And usually by the time people get to see me as a pain psychologist, their life that they used to have has shrunk down to the size of this glass. And this is what life feels like to them. And people usually get this. They go, yeah, it feels heavy. It's all of who I am. It's all consuming. I don't like this. And what I say is, I said, what you probably would like me to help you do is to take this problem and get rid of it. Throw it away. But the problem is, the harder we try to get rid of it, it keeps coming back. So what I've learned is to shift the focus from trying to help people get rid of this thing to look at where their life is now, and to essentially move from this life to this life. And here's what happens. And at this point, I usually become very quiet, and I let them tell me what this means to them. And 95% of the people get this. And they say something like this: "Wow, are you saying that if I have a bigger life the same amount of pain is experienced differently? And I say, exactly, you get it. And your task then is to move from this small life that pain has created to a bigger life, a fuller life. Because if you have a fuller life and you practice some skills such as breathing exercises, you practice meditation, you add more things to your strategy, to your life, all of a sudden your experience changes. And you'll notice that pain is still part of that new life, but it's not the only thing that's in it. And that's the difference.
I just remember feeling overwhelmed that there wasn't one thing I could do to help this pain. And I kind of figured out then that it was going to be a long road and there probably wasn't like a magic fix. I don't tend to focus just on the pain, and I think that helps me. I think if I were to sit and dwell on the pain 24/7, I would be much worse off.
And we were just like, no, that's not, something will happen. Something will make this better. There's ways that we can make this better. And that's how we've always gotten through all of our issues, all of the things that we've overcome. Yeah, I'm extremely proud of my wife and the progress that she's made, and she's done it through determination, through being stubborn, through just never stopping, never quitting, never accepting.
I find that distraction is a big friend of mine. I try to stay busy, just doing household things, taking care of the kids, driving them back and forth.
But how do you do all that with your pain?
It doesn't matter. If I hurt, it doesn't matter. It has to get done. It's not an option to not do these things. I have to do it. It still has to get done. Trying to focus on other things tends to help me. My spinal cord stimulator has been a huge help. I have done the ketamine infusions. I see a psychologist. She's helped me a lot. Just staying active, trying to stay active. I think for all the people that live with chronic pain, my biggest message would be to not give up in trying to find ways to help yourself. Seek out the doctors that are willing to think outside the box. Seek out researching for yourself, talking to other people who have your same conditions, see what kind of treatments they've tried. I think there are a lot of treatments that could help for each condition. It just depends on the person. And I've been very lucky that my doctor has been open to continuing to try different things with me.
Life can be better. You do not have to live the way you've been living. Over the course of time, with proper skills and training, some diligence, some courage, you may end up finding freedom.
Hi, how are you today? Good. How are you doing?
Oh, well, better.
How's your back? Actually, it's remarkably well. She used to come into the office and not be able to even barely lay down on the acupuncture bed. When I first saw her, I really felt like she had given up, that she didn't think she would ever be able to be out of pain, that she was just going to continue on the medications. And it was debilitating for her and her husband, and for her family, her son and daughter-in-law and granddaughter. She started to see a little bit of change and then got more and more and more motivated. And as she got more and more and more motivated, it motivated her husband. They started changing their eating habits. They started going for walks, really paying attention to how they were functioning. And she started really taking control of her life again.
All these things that she was doing for me was giving me back my life that I didn't have.
And now it's just like, hey, we go all over the place together and doing things. So it's been a big step forward. It helped a lot.
So yoga is my really good friend right now. So the yoga and the stretching and all that is just really good. The meditation part of it and the breathing and all that and the stretching, it all comes together to help the mind and the body and soul.
I know it helps some because he's very busy throughout the day, not just sitting at his desk, but running around various places, having to travel to Vegas, and he puts a lot of pressure on his body. So to have, again, a timeout throughout the workday to kind of rejuvenate and recover has been very helpful.
Yeah, without the alternative treatments, I would probably be dependent on taking opioids on a regular basis. I mean, either that or I wouldn't be able to function. I wouldn't be able to come to work and function and think and have normal daily activities of living like, people need.
We're both excited to get, when the 21st of August comes around and we head for Las Vegas, we're going to be just jumping up and down. Just going to be just a lot of fun to be able to go do something that we both enjoy immensely. We plan out the whole trip is going to be about 8,000 miles.
Okay, you're in the car, and you give a little gas, start out, tops off, your hair is blowing in the wind, you're just free, and it's just a different kind of feeling.
Whatever she goes through, the ups and downs, ins and outs, I want to be there with her. If she's down, I'm down there to help her up, and she does the same for me.
Well, like I said, he's an angel. I owe my life to him because without him, I couldn't do anything for myself. He means the world to me, and without him, I'd be lost. And I wouldn't have a Corvette.
There is hope for people with persistent pain. You need to talk to your doctor about the possibility of developing a team of specialists to help you. We know that pain is not just a physical sensation, but it has emotional, social, many other contexts. People get better, you can get on with your life and be more than your pain problem.
What I love about my job mostly is watching a patient go from having something that is affecting their life so significantly to something that is just a peripheral thought in their day that doesn't affect their life as much. And that transition is very rewarding.
Some point in our life, we're all dealing with pain. And so we should be able to get together to help everybody else with their pain.
The most important thing that you can do is believe that you can get better. This is not how it has to be for you. Have a life that's filled with the kinds of activities that are important to you.
The hope is that your perception, the way you look at this, plays a huge role in how much suffering you have. I want to encourage you to add to your life, despite having pain, and live the fullest you can.